So, hello everyone, good afternoon, dear authors and invited guests. Welcome to the technical session 5T. Myself, Saksham Sarra, and this session will be moderated by me. On the behalf of Global Knowledge Research Foundation, it's my great pleasure to welcome you in the International Congress for Information and Communication Technology, ICICT 2023, London, United Kingdom. The eighth edition of this conference is held in a hybrid mode. The physical event was held in London on 20th and 21st February, and the virtual event are held through Zoom, that is on 22nd and 23rd February. I hope you will enjoy the knowledgeable and interactive sessions throughout the day. In this session, we will have 6 presentations, and each presentation will be given 12 minutes for the presentation and 3 minutes for question and answers. And I'll raise a gentle reminder in 10 minutes. And if you have any query or any update, just write it to me in the chat box. And I request you all to stay with us till the closing remarks. Just before starting the session, I would like to welcome our session chair, Dr. Latika Desai. Dr. Latika Desai, at present working as a head department of artificial intelligence and data science engineering at Dr. D.Y. Patil College of Engineering and Innovation, Varali, Pune. Formerly, Dr. Latika Desai worked as an associate professor and HOD of Department of Information Technology at Dr. D.Y. Patil Institute of Technology, Pimpri. She had total 25 years of teaching experience. She has published 33 papers in various journals. Her one patent published in Patent Office Journal. She is having 2 copyrights for Government of India. Her area of interest include digital electronics, data security, and embedded system and IoT club. Welcome, ma'am.
Saksham, the other chair is also joined, Dr. Mahmood.
Okay, sir. And I also welcome Dr. S.M. Mahmood. Dr. S.M. Hassan Mahmood received a PhD degree in computer science and technology from the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. He is working as an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science at American International University, Bangladesh. He has published many research articles in reputed conferences and journals. His research interests include machine learning, deep learning, bioinformatics, drug recovery, and partition recognition. Welcome, sir. Now, moving forward, I'd like to start this session, and I would like to invite the first presenter, Timothy James Hardman, with his paper on a comparative study of dimensionality reduction technique for satellite image analysis. We may start a presentation.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Good day, everyone. Today, I'll be presenting my findings on a comparative study of dimensionality reduction techniques for satellite image analysis, written and conducted by myself, Timothy, and supervised by Jules Raymond. When it comes to high dimensionality datasets, they are not always being exploited to their full potential without dimensionality reduction. And as such, investigations into using the correct dimensionality reduction techniques, as well as the correct classifiers, have a wide scope. High dimensionality, often referred to as the Hughes phenomenon, causes the classifiers to be overloaded with information, a lot of which are not useful for classification purposes. These dimensionality reduction methods have proven to be useful techniques in resolving this problem, but their performances are dependent on the nature of the data and the classifier used for the task. Thus, the result can often be worsened by a subjective decision about which dimensionality reduction technique and classifier to use. Thus, it is required that dimensionality reduction techniques be implemented correctly when using a satellite imaging classification model. This brings us to the goal of this paper, which is to investigate the optimal combination of dimensionality reduction and classifier techniques on high dimensionality satellite data. For this investigation, 2 datasets were chosen: the Rosas Pavia city center with its silhouette seen on the left, and the Pavia University seen on the right. These datasets were chosen for their large number of spectral bands at 102 and 103 respectively, and the public nature of this data. A special thanks goes out to Professor P. Gamba from the University of Pavia for allowing the ROSIS dataset to be open source. The large number of spectral bands was a perfect candidate for the testing of the different dimensionality reduction techniques and classifiers. Looking at the datasets themselves, both contain 9 different categories of classifications ranging from water to trees to bare soil, giving a wide range of different mediums to test. The datasets were reduced down to 1,000 items per class where possible in both cases. This was chosen as the Shadows class in the ROSIS Pavia University dataset only contained 947 items, and thus the number of items in each class were kept similar to reduce biases. They were then split into 90% training and 10% testing, and the data points chosen for these experiments were taken at random. The actual breakdown of the different classification types can be seen in the image provided. However, it is much easier to decipher in the paper itself. The following dimensionality reduction techniques were used in the paper: independent component analysis, ICA, principal component analysis, PCA, minimum noise fraction, MNF, discrete wavelet transformation, DWT, and kernel principal component analysis. In the paper, a detailed pseudocode is provided for each dimensionality reduction technique. PCA and MNF maximize the variance of the transformed components, whilst ICA maximizes the non-Gaussianity of the transformed components. The KPCA is an extension of PCA where the input data points are transformed into feature space by a nonlinear transformation. This allows the KPCA to capture higher order statistics and provide better class separability over PCA. DWT are also very useful for dimensionality reduction as they can denoise two-dimensional images. The DWT of a signal, or in this case an image, can be calculated by passing it through a series of low and high pass filters. The output from the high pass filter gives the DWT detail coefficients, and the low pass filter gives the approximation coefficients. There's also a variety of classifiers used in this paper: the linear discriminant classifier, LDC, the logistic regression classifier, LRC, the naive Bayes classifier, NBC, and the minimum distance classifier, MDC. The combination of these dimensionality reduction techniques and classifiers form the basis of this paper. Another technique investigated in this study was the use of multiple classifier systems, MCS, or ensemble. This technique is performed using combination rules. There are 6 different combination rules adopted. Each one of these rules is separately applied to the pairs of classifiers and dimensionality reduction techniques to determine a final prediction. The investigation leverages this technique alongside the objectively found best dimensionality reduction and classifier pairs from the initial testing on the datasets through an extensive grid search. In order to generate a more optimized system, as much subjective decision-making as possible was removed from the experimental procedure. To note, a pairing is defined as a classifier that generated the highest overall accuracy for a given dimensionality reduction technique. This is then done for each dimensionality reduction technique and is used for the MCS combination rules. Now looking at the results. It was observed that the LRC classifier dominated in accuracy predictions of almost all the dimensionality reduction techniques. The MDC classifier does not appear to compete with the other classifiers, always being much lower in all cases. Comparing the dimensionality reduction techniques on specifically the ROSIS city of Pavia as an example, the ICA technique clearly does not perform as well as the other techniques for this application, as its highest accuracy achieved in the experiments was only 45.37%. This could be due to the nature of the data used, with unique features not being the defining factor of the data, which is usually what ICA helps to achieve. The PCA technique also lacks the accuracies generated by the other dimensionality techniques, although the accuracies are much higher than ICA at a maximum of 75.09%. KPCA, however, at a maximum of 81.16%, slightly improves compared to PCA, and this could be attributed to the nonlinear transformation of KPCA, helping distinguish the input data better for classification. However, the training times for KPCA were up to 10 times longer than PCA, and this would drastically increase with an increase in the dataset size due to the high scaling factor. MNF and DWT were by far the best dimensionality reduction techniques used in this sense at 93.59% and 92.68% respectively. And the results they generated were very similar. This clear difference between these dimensionality reduction techniques and the other two could be an indication that the dataset is very noisy, as these techniques are very good at denoising the input data to help get better results. The MCS techniques used showed that the best performing combination was the product method, as it provided the best classification accuracy for both datasets, with 89.52% and 95.78% respectively. The minimum and maximum combination techniques, however, perform the worst in both cases, and this may be due to the low number of dimensionality reduction pairs used for the combinations. It is important to note that the best combination techniques outperformed any single pairing on its own, thus showing that the MCS techniques can help enhance classification accuracy, with an improvement of 5.83% on the Rosus University dataset and 2.18% on the Rosus City of Pavia dataset. It has been shown that with the right use of dimensionality reduction techniques, the classification accuracy on hyperspectral image datasets can be improved with the use of dimensionality reduction techniques. And this can further be improved with pairings of the dimensionality reduction techniques with the correct classifier. Possible future works could include the use of dimensionality reduction techniques alongside feature extraction techniques to further improve the classification accuracy. The possible use of genetic-based optimizers to find better pipelines. And lastly, the techniques used in this paper can be expanded to other applications with high dimensionality data. Some limitations encountered were the limited access to specialized datasets, the training times encountered that hindered the extension of certain techniques such as the KPCA, and the ability to generate completely unbiased results due to the small scale nature of the experiments conducted. Thank you for attending my presentation on the comparative study of dimensionality reduction techniques for satellite image analysis. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Timothy, for a nice presentation. I want to know how many training data sets you are handled.
We only had easy access to the two data sets that I discussed at the start. However, we wanted to expand to more data sets to compare what was found in these experiments and see if they had similar results on other data sets for satellite imaging. But the actual ground truth work would be very difficult to actually generate the data sets. Hence, we only had two easily accessible ones that already had the ground truth done for us. Also, it would be a much more difficult endeavor.
Okay. And you are considered the time, execution time?
Yeah, so with regards to the actual process of classifying these models and the training time and the classification time was taken into consideration, and that is why a smaller data set was used, because when it came to the KPCA dimensionality reduction technique, because of the nature of it, it took much longer than the other techniques, whereas something like DWT was virtually instant in comparison, many orders of magnitude slower.
Okay, thank you. Over from my side.
Yeah, Dr. Mahmood, do you have any question?
Okay, it was nice presentation. So I have one question regarding your presentation. Which dimensional reduction technique receive or achieve highest accuracy?
So the one that had the highest accuracy was the DWT technique in combination.
Okay, why this technique achieved the highest one? Because you have applied different type of techniques I have seen. So why actually DWT achieves the highest accuracy? Why was the major reason behind this?
So from my speculation, it was because the dataset used was quite a noisy dataset. So the DWT dimensionality reduction technique helped to get rid of the noise better than the other techniques were able to do.
Okay. So I have seen you actually consider it accuracy as a evaluations metrics. Do you have any plans to consider other evaluations metrics? I mean that you have applied accuracy. I mean that you have considered accuracy as a evaluations metric. So there have several metrics in our machine learning technique, such as F1, MCC. Have you heard this type of techniques or evaluation?
I have heard of them, but we haven't extended this paper to look at which techniques would be
Okay. So
better
next
suited
time,
for
I
those
think you can
metrics.
consider others evaluation metric to evaluate your model. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's okay from my side.
Any further questions? I think no. So now I would like to invite Ari Vilashmara for his paper on citizen engagement on government social media validation of measurement items. You may start a presentation now.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good noon, good afternoon, and good night to Honorable Session Chair, Dr. Latika Desai, and Dr. Hasan Mahmud, and the moderator, Dr. Seksam, and all the participants today. It's great to see you all. First of all, let me introduce our teams. This first member of my team is Ari Desmara, myself, and my supervisor. The first supervisor is Dr. Abdul Razak Husin from the UTM, Malaysia, and the second supervisor is Dr. Samsur Yadi from the University of Sriwijaya, Indonesia. Okay, in this great opportunity, I would like to present our paper. The title is Citizen Engagement on Government Social Media, Validation of Measurement Items. Okay, let's start my presentation now. Firstly, I will explain about the presentation.
I request you
outline.
just make
Yeah.
it the full screen.
Full screen, okay. Okay.
And you proceed.
I will explain about the presentation of the section 1. I will introduction. Explain about the introduction, and the next I will explain about the background of study, and then methodology, and the next identify construct, and then measurement item development, and then content validity, and the last is conclusion. The introduction, I will talking about for the first emergence and the trend of social media use in the world. And as we know, since the emergence of social media in 1998, based on the World Social and Hotsuite report, active users of social media are about 58% of the world population in 2022. And then the second, I will talk about the use of Web 2.0 and UGC technology, user-generated content, in social media by the government to promote openness, collaboration, and transparency and constitution. And the last, we will talking about the use of social media around the world, especially in the public sector, has different goals, such as disseminating information, developing mass collaboration, and strengthening law and regulation. In the background study, I will explain for the first about the previous research on government social media has generally been oriented toward the government side, not the user side. It means more on how the government is than how the user are, while the content created by the government is still the image of government and the politic tools, and instead of increasing government openness. And the second, I will explain about there is still lack of participation on the government electronically. Based on the UN e-government survey 2020 digital government, Indonesia have a rank 57 from 193 countries, and number 4 from the 11 country from the South Asia. And the last is about information provided by the government rarely get feedback from the citizens. So the study aims to find factors and the indicator of citizen engagement in government social media by evaluating the respondent question instrument, which will become a questionnaire form, to capture expectation from the citizen side in their involvement in government social media by using content validity. This research is continuation of the previous conducted system literature review or SLR and produce factor and indicator of citizen engagement in government social media in a comprehensive research procedure. Then proceed with the following step. First, identifying construct, and the second, measurement item development, and the last is content validity. In identify construct, this section presents the process of defining each related construct for this research, referring to the SLR process for this research. 14 constructs were selected as models of citizen engagement on government social media. The following table presents the identified construct and their source reference. We have 14 constructs are trust in sincere intention, that about the degree to which citizens believe the government is committed to listening to, and where possible implementing idea generated through the participation process. Expected personal gratification is about the degree to which citizens believe that engagement will provide them with pleasure and fulfillment. Dialogic loop about the organization which posts content the social can stimulate public dialogue, providing the dialogue channel for the public and responding to public feedback in timely manner. Situational motivation is about in problem solving, is a state of situation specific, cognitive, optimistic readiness to make problem solving effort, or the drive to stop and think about a problematic situation. Crisis efficacy is about reflect people belief about whether they can successfully perform recommended behavior during crisis situation that are largely out of their control. Community commitment is about a contribution to the community, for example, participating in community events, contributing to solving community problems. Community ownership is about a sense of possession and feeling of ownership. Trust in government is about the degree to which citizens believe that the government will work, strength of social tie, the extent to which individuals regularly interact with others. Attitude toward behavior is about an individual positive or negative feeling, evaluative effect about engaging in government social media. Subjective norms is about the person perception that most people who are important to him or her think he or she should or should not perform the behavior in question. Perceived behavioral control, the perceived ease or difficulty of performing the behavior. Intention of citizen engagement, CE, on government social media is about an individual willingness to engage in government social media engagement. And the last, about the citizen engagement on government social media, is about individual or collective behavior and to solving a social problem in society by utilizing government social media. In the measure item development, the study uses a research instrument, namely the validation sheet instrument for expert judgment and questionnaire instrument for respondent as user of government social media. Of the 14 factors forming the model, we have 56 questions assessed using a CVI by expert in the field of government social media. There are tables. We have refining in the trust and sincere intention item, and then refining the expected personal gratification item, refining the dialogic loop items, refining the situational motivation items, refining the crisis efficacy items, refining the community commitment items, refining the community ownership item, refining the trust in government item, refining the strength of social items, refining the attitude toward the behavior items, refining the subjective norm items, refining the perceived behavioral control item, refining the intention citizen engagement on government social media item, and the last, refining the citizen engagement on government social media items. In content validity in this study, 11 experts were asked to validate the instrument. However, only 5 experts are willing to validate this instrument. And content validity, this is about the force scale for measuring relevant values because they are the labels most frequently used by the researcher for content validity. The Likert scale from the not relevant until the highly relevant, and the score is ascending from the 1 to the 4. Content validity is indicate the level of acceptance of an item in measurement based on the operational definition of the reflective construct. And then content validity index is used to validate this research instrument. And content validity of the 5 experts who have carried out the content validity, then calculate using the content validity index or CVI. There are 2 questions item below the acceptance threshold for item CVI about 0.8, namely 1, the community commitment factor in question number 4, and the community factor ownership, factors in question number 1. After that, both questions will be eliminated. So the conclusion is this study established reliable measurement item for construct taken from systematic literature review, and then questionnaire item content of citizen engagement model. Building factor on government social media was assessed. Questionnaire item were verified in terms of relevance and simplicity using CVI. As a result, item count are adjusted and item content is edited and changed in the term of Russell. Referring to finding of this paper, the measurement items are significantly useful for the research area of citizen engagement on government social media and can be used by students or researchers in the same field of study. Thank you.
Thank you, Adi, for your presentation. Can
Yes,
you
Doctor.
show me slide number 27?
27, okay. Okay, Doctor.
Next one. Next one.
Yes.
Next one.
Oh, next one.
28.
Okay.
1 minute. 1 minute. Yes. So you are mentioned here score like not relevant, relevant.
Yes.
So how, in which factors you are decided these things, this score?
This code is not the factor, but the question for the expert. So they must evaluate for each item, question item that is not relevant until high relevant for the factors, each item.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. One
Thank you,
more
Doctor.
thing, in the
Okay,
your
thank-
literature survey, you are considered 2020 papers till 2020, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we are in 23. So please consider that. Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
because I began this research about 2018.
Okay.
I'm
So,
sorry.
okay. Over to Saksham.
I beg your pardon?
Is there any other?
Dr. Mahmood, please, any questions?
Okay, so I have one questions to
Yes, sir.
presenter. So how many questions you have considered in this research?
I have about 56 question, but I must eliminate 2 questions in the community commitment and the community ownership.
Okay, so my second question is how many respond your questions? I mean, how many people
Okay.
joined in your survey data?
Okay. Last month, I just finished my data processing with Smart PLS, and I have about 770 respondents from 900 respondents.
900.
Yes.
So you have mentioned that you have used Smart PLS as a analytical tools here. So why not use what you are not considered SPSS? Have you heard about these tools before?
Okay. SPSS, they use a non-parametric question, but the Smart PLS more modern. They not they're not think about the data distribution. So if your data distribution is squeeness or curtosis, they not care about that. So
Okay,
I think
so
Smart PLS is more
from your answer.
yes.
That means the Smart PL is more scientific than
Betul. Yes.
SPSS. Okay,
Correct.
so that's okay from my side. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Hasan Ahmad.
Yes, Saksham, next.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Now I invite Carlos Molina with his paper on extracting temporal association rules over data cubes. You may start your presentation now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your presentation. Let's check now. Okay, I'm Carlos Molina from the University of Granada, and this paper has been prepared in collaboration with my colleague Belén Prado Suárez from the same university. In this paper, we talk about the temporal association rules. That is a concept that first appeared in 1999, that it was called intertransaction association rules. They look for expression in that way, that when a set of items appear, then another set will appear in the future, and they give a measure of this time. Since then, several proposals have been appeared in literature. They have changed how they measure the time or exactly the relation between the item sets, but they are based on the same concept. In another hand, OLAP systems have been used a lot in strategic analysis. That these systems are based on multidimensional models that get the data from the data warehouse in the organization and give a temporal view of the data, so they allow the decisor to analyze trends and decide the future of the companies. There are some proposals to deal with association rules, but we have not able to find any temporal association methods that can be applied to this system. Here, we propose is a new methods in that line. To use as an example, we have financial data cubes that give information regarding companies. In this data cube, we store 9 variables that are information given by the own companies in the annual balance they have to present mandatory in Spain. This data cube was first prepared to analyze when the companies may present economic problem and has to stop their the operation. In this model, we have numerical variables that, to improve the understandability for the user, we have defined fuzzy sets to group these values. So for the final result, can use this more abstract concept that are easier to understand for the decisor. The same case is the age. There is the number of years that the company has been running. In another way, we have categorical variables that define the other dimensions. The most important one is the enterprise dimension that gives some characteristic of the company that do not change along the time. Another dimension that was defined for the failure dimension is that, and we have to the auditory opinion if the company has passed any auditory process, and the size of the company. This value has been calculated according to the number of employees, because there are several possible classification, but this is the more usual use in this context. We want to find over this the multidimensional model are expression of this kind. For companies of building sector, when the working capital is low, then after 3 years, the indebtedness cost is high. So we want to find relation between values in some of the variables that a company present and what will happen in the future, being able to measure how many time have to pass. For this, we first have to identify, sorry, have to show that there are a difference between the dimension, because we have someone that do not change along the time, for example, the company characteristic. Meanwhile, there is another dimension that change. For example, most of the economic variables that we represent in the multidimensional model change from 1 year to the other. And one that is, in this case, we have 4 dimensions that change. One that is very important if we are talking about the time is the dimension, the time dimension. In this case, we consider the granularity of the dimension is year. In the paper, you can find the formal definition of the temporal association rules, but let me here explain with the example we have used before. If we have this sentence, we define the association rules considering items from the dimension that do not change along the time. In that case, we have here the sector, and we have the other dimension that will change along the time. That is the real relation, the working capital load, then the indebtedness cost will be high, and then consider the time. Well, as usual in the association rules, we consider 2 quality measures. One is the representative of the rule, that means the percentage of the entities that really satisfy this rule, and the quality normally is based on the confidence measure, but this measure has problem with there are very frequent items, so we prefer to use the certitude factor that do not have these problems. To get the temporal association rules, we take as a base and another algorithms that work over the OLAP data cubes that use the dimension and the hierarchy of the dimension to reduce the complexity in the results shown to the user. The process is an iterative one that when the method have the association rules, it's try to generalize the concepts. Instead of using concrete values, it try to use values in higher levels in the dimension, so the final result will be easier to understand for the user. But we cannot use directly because there are some concepts and shape. For example, the support calculation in normal association rule, we consider that the whole number of records inside the data cubes is the total support. But in this case, it's not the same, because we will have several records that belong to the same company along the time. So we have to consider, we have to measure how many different entities we really have in this problem. In that case, in our example, it's easy to know that what is the number of entities, but here is the general the total number of companies, sorry. But here you can find, and in the paper you have more details about how to calculate the support of an item in that case. Another thing that changed is how we generate the rules. This methods is use an a priori like process, but here when we combine the item sets to to generate the rule, there are different because two items can be combined into a rule only if the item set that are from the fixed dimension that identify really the company, the entity, are the same. And the other thing that's changed is how we calculate the sorry, the quality of the rule or the rules, because we have to take not only the certainty factor, but we have to give to the time. In this case, we have considered that for the user, we will show the average time between the occurrence of one item and the items and the other, and give a confidence interval to show the variance of this value and how it can be representative in the rules. We have tested methods with this data cube using different set of parameters that are shown in this table. And we have found that, well, it's normal that if we use a low support threshold, we get more frequent item sets and number of rules, but because of the method we use that try to reduce the complexity, the final number of rules is near to the number of frequent items that is not normal in association rules methods. I don't, well, if you are you know about association rules, one of the main problem of this approach is that the result, the number of final association rules give to the user are very hard and complicated to understand. Using the first parameters, we show some example of rules to show how it's work and to explain the result. For example, in this situation, we have this rule that there is no value for the fixed dimension. So this rule can be applied to all the entities inside the data cubes. In this case, it said that when the working capital is normal and the return of assets is normal, in the vendors cost very low, the company will not fare. And this is what is important here is the time that it said that it is valid for 1 year to 2 years. This rule can be applied in 1 year or 2 years. Another interesting rule is that one that says that when the company is young, that in this case, we have a value for the fixed dimension. When the working capital is normal and the return on asset is low, in more or less 3 years, we can expect that the working capital will be low and the company will fare. So these rules can be used to analyze the economic situation of the companies and try to predict how they will be performed in the near future. As a conclusion of our paper, we have proposed a new methods to extract temporal association rule over data cubes that we was not able to find any in the literature, and to manage some imprecision by means of the fuzzy logic. We have identified how the different dimensions have to be managed inside the methods, because we always have a dimension that will measure the time, but we will have another dimension that identify the entities and do not change on the time, like the fixes, and the one that really are the values that are interested to analyze, that are the variable dimensions. To improve the method, we have used as a base a method that reduces the complexity, so we can give the user rules that use concept near to the decision, so it's easier to understand. As a future line, we plan to apply these methods to a more complex domain. Exactly, we are working now in electronic health records, and we are developing a federated approach. So so we don't really need that all the data have to be in the same database, and even they have not to be shared between different entities. This will be done inside a proposal we have about electronic health records aggregator. And the other way we want to improve these methods is changing the way we manage the time, because the time really is fuzzy, it's impressive, and giving average value not always represent really what the the information behind. So we are working on some fuzzy time measure. So to the user, we can show a linguistic summary in the sound near 3 years or between 4 and 5 years, something that represents imprecision that hide it to the user, but give enough information to make the rules easy to understand for the decisor. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Carlos, for the nice presentation. Can you elaborate little bit on how you are saying reduced complexity, right, with your work?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Reduce complexity. Can you elaborate little bit?
Okay, yes. Well, when talking about the association rule complexity in the result normally are based on 2 factors. One is the number of rules, because if you give to the user 100 rules, it's very complicated to understand really the knowledge behind this set. So to reduce the complexity, one of the factors to reduce the number of rules, and the other factor is to use concepts that are near to the user. Instead of consider a concrete value or use intervals that sometimes are not easy to understand, define concepts in the sense of, we have here, let me show, sorry, at the beginning, that may represent really what the user understands. So instead of consider the value or concrete value or interval, let the user to define fuzzy set, defining what is a low value for each of the variable, or what the decisor consider a high or very high. So they can we can give the user sentence rules that are easiest to understand. This is the complexity what we consider in this case. Number and the concept used to represent the data.
Okay. Thank you, Carlos, and take care. Over to Dr. Hassan.
Okay, this was actually really very good work by Charles Mollica, Professor Charles Mollica. It's a very nice work. So I have one question regarding federated learning.
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit about federated learning?
Yes. Well, let me go to the last slide. And then federated learning means that instead of getting all the data and get all the data together in one place, sometimes it's not possible. In the case of medical data, is because of law restriction, is completely, when sometimes it's completely impossible. So the idea is to split the methods. So on each database, we run a method, we get a partial result, and then we combine all the results in one general result. Now there are a lot of proposals. You can find a lot of proposals using neural networks because they are easy to combine the methods, but well, there are some proposals now to work with association rules that instead of getting all the information in one place, each of the database of 10 partial item set, they combine the support, but not even given all the information, so we can control what information leave of each of the database. So we keep as much as possible the information leak. Then we combine the partial result to get a general result.
Okay, so you are trying to actually integrate the associations rule with federated learning. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay,
We have
so
a proposal with normal association rules, and we want to include the temporal
database.
type.
So it's about the image data or medical imaging security related something, right?
Yes.
So it's a really nice work. Okay, Professor Charles Mollica, thank you. Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. Now, I would like to invite Maulana Amirul Ada with his paper on hybrid learning in schools, analysis of community role in ICT-based learning and faculty management. You may start your presentation.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Let me introduce myself. My name is Maulana Amirul Adha from State University of Jakarta. I want to present the paper with the title of Hybrid Learning in School, Analysis of the Community's Role in ICT-Based Learning Facilities Management. The first author is Prof. Maisaro, and the member of this research is Yuharyanto Bambang Briwiono, and me, Maulana Amirul Adha, and Bagus Rahmat Saputra. Okay, I'll start the presentation. Sorry. For the introduction, when the world of education is shaped by the presence of a pandemic, making it no longer possible to interrupt face-to-face learning between teachers and students, the availability of and use of ICT becomes a solution to overcome the educational crisis. And the unprepared implementation of online learning actually does not only depend on teachers, but also on the readiness of school, student, parent, and the community. Even demand for the involvement of parents to accompany their children more intensely occur, as well as demand for the community to contribute more to the implementation of education in school. Quality education in the current context, namely the implementation of hybrid learning, required integrated responsibility between school, government, parents, and the community. The availability of adequate learning facilities for students requires good management of the school, as well as participation from the community. This research refers to the main aspect, namely the trend of information technology development leading to digitalization and the pressure of COVID-19, which affects various aspects of human life. Optimizing the success of hybrid learning implementation in Indonesia basically refers to availability and utilization of learning facility in the midst of uncertainty when the pandemic ends is one of the important factor in optimizing the successful implementation of hybrid learning. Therefore, the availability of learning facilities for students needs to be ensured. When the management of learning facilities is the key in ensuring that learning facilities are available to students. This situation is the initial reasoning for the need for research that leads to an analysis of the role of society or community and parents in the learning facilities management model in optimizing the successful implementation of hybrid learning in the context of the digital era and pandemic. And the purpose of this study is to investigate the role of the community in the management of ICT-based learning facilities in order to optimize the success of hybrid learning. For the method, a qualitative approach with a multi-case study design is used to identify the role of the community in the management of learning facilities in supporting the success of hybrid learning. The research location were conducted in 9 excellent schools that were used as a research target. The 9 excellent schools located in the 3 different cities with different status in Indonesia. First is Tanah Tidung Regency in North Kalimantan Province, is a newly born area with inadequate infrastructure support. And second is Bondowoso Regency, represent the existence of superior school, but with the status of a regency that has just moved out of the status of poor regency in East Java province. Meanwhile, the city of Malang, East Java, represent developed advanced area. The triangulation process is used for the measurement of the validity of the data. Some mistakes carried out in the triangulation process. And for data analysis, begin with the process of systematically searching and compiling interview transcript and field notes. Then the data is systematically sorted according to the research focus. In more detail, the data analysis follows the recommendation of Miles et al., namely data reduction, presentation, and drawing conclusion. And the next is the result in this study is first, schools, parent, and community synergize with each other in optimizing the successful implementation of hybrid learning in school. Parents of students are involved in a hybrid learning-based learning program plan, both from the availability of learning support device, namely communication technology tools and internet network, as support for the implementation of hybrid learning. School, together with parents and the community, share their respective roles in providing assistance to student learning activities. And the role of school, parents, and the community from the three research locations are the same, especially in the success of online learning during pandemic. Parents are directly involved in hybrid learning. This is very visible when parents provide learning support facility such as a smartphone and internet network to their children, especially to support online learning when hybrid learning is conducted. And the second, the form of parental participation in the success of hybrid learning from three locations is to play an active role in communicating with school regarding the problem faced by school in implementing hybrid school. The contribution given include for first, providing both material and non-material support to school. And second, coordinating with teacher to solve specific problem. And the third, providing assistance with unlimited Zoom account provider. And four is being involved in providing learning material carried out by parent and other parties, one of which is from tutoring. And the next for the result, the strategy in optimizing the successful implementation of hybrid learning in Malang City is to build open communication with parents of students about the urgency of implementing learning with a hybrid learning model in school. Socialization activities to parents and community of students are carried out online using applications such as Zoom, a part of effort to introduce hybrid learning from to parents of students. Meanwhile, in Bondowoso Regency, the strategy carried out is to involve all teacher, parent, and interested party in the management of education. Some of the strategy formulated by school in Tanah Tidung, North Kalimantan, Indonesia, are budgeting some facilities from school finance for student learning facilities. And also preparing activity sheets for students who are not reached by internet connection and reformulating the school vision, mission, and goals. The impact of the strategy implemented is all students get their right to learn even though some of it is carried out at home. It can improve the digital literacy skill of teachers, students, and parents. And the last is the good cooperation between facilities and infrastructure officer with the teachers and student is shown by report from teachers and students regarding equipment that needs to be handled immediately. And for the discussion, based on the result of the study, the different condition of each region are unique for each region. In the concept of school-based management, autonomy is given to school in developing their school based on excellences in its region. And second, the form of participation from the community based on finding in the three regions can be grouped into 2 points, namely in the form of financial and non-financial support. Meanwhile, it can also be grouped types of participation, namely passive and active. Passive participation is support in the form of attitude, behavior, and action that assist school in implementing educational program and services, while active participation is direct community involved in every activity in school. And the last, relate to various policies from the government in the field of education during the pandemic, it is important for school to increase community participation. Innovative effort from school are required to push community involvement. School needs strong partner from the government, parent, business, and stakeholder in the local community. And the conclusion in this research is school needs to establish good collaboration with the government at the local level, parents, stakeholder, universities, industry, and various institutions around the school in supporting the effectiveness of learning facilities management in supporting the success of hybrid learning. In the role of parent today is not only to accompany student while studying from home, parents also need to strive for the availability of ICT-based learning facilities for their children. Thank you for your attention. May all those we have shared be beneficial for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Maulana, for the nice informative presentation. For data analysis, which tool you are used?
Sorry, in the method, okay.
Have you used any tool for data analysis?
We are analysis with recommendation of Miles et al. In the data analysis for qualitative study in the name of data reduction, presentation, and drawing conclusion. And then cross-case data analysis is analysis comparative constant. Dr. Latika.
Okay. Have you think about the drawbacks? You are said parent has to provide the facilities, right?
Right.
So have you think the drawbacks of that?
Sorry? Can you repeat again, Miss Latika?
See, you are saying parent has to provide the laptop, mobiles to the student, right? I mean, to the child, right?
Yeah,
Children.
some parent provide that. Yes, Mr. Latika.
Hello.
Yeah, Dr. Latika, sorry.
You are
Yeah,
saying
some parent in our research give some information that they provide some facilities for their children for online learning in hybrid learning in this research.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Latika.
Okay, I have a questions to Amirul, Maulana Amirul.
Yeah.
So in the data analysis part, I can see you have considered data reductions. So which type of technique you have applied as a data reductions for
Okay.
the data reduction?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Dr. Hassan. We in this research we are connected conventional data reduction like some interview and some field note. We are grouping in the one of focus that meet the information from informant, and we are not connected with some tools, maybe like Atlas or NVivo, that we connected with a conventional procedure like that. Dr. Hassan.
Okay. Okay, so which tools you have applied for your data analysis?
Sorry, Dr. Hasan?
Which tools? I mean the tools like
Uh,
Smart PLS or SPSS.
yeah. We are conducted our research with qualitative, and we are now in qualitative study is tool for analysis data like NVivo and Atlas. And in this research, we are not conducted data analysis with that tools. We are conducted with conventional like describe.
Okay, Maulana, best of luck.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hasan. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Now I invite Saragni Mabai with his paper on IoT, security and mobility in IPv6. You may start your presentation now.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's correct. It's correct. Go ahead.
Yes.
Make it full screen. Make it full screen.
Yes. It's fine.
Perfect. Perfect. Go ahead.
Perfect. I execute for the disjunction man because it's half my option. My name is Sering Bay. I study in University under job of Dakar in Senegal. It is a pleasure to participate in your conference and to present my research work under the topic IoT security mobility in IPv6. In IPv6, we began this work an introduction. IoT needs security and mobility in IPv6. IoT needs and IPv support and we terminate in conclusion and the perspective. In introduction, I propose the IoT is more education and mobility, featuring sensor device and actor provided by internet. The connection of each device is necessary. So we will study the IoT security. The IoT security is established to fight against attack and hack attack from others, and so improve them weak of some device. Our goal in the topic is to allow to use to set or change their losing data and find a personal work. After the introduction, we address the IoT needs. The IoT needs are met by the security and the security we through l'authentification, l'authentification, the confidentiality, the integrity, the access control, and the no repudiation. In the mobility, we withdraw the motion detection, the indication verification of information. This is two aspects allows us to ensure the function of the IoT. After the IoT needs, I draw is the security and mobility in IPv6. The security in IPv6 are an important part of IPv6. It is largely provided by IPsec with several modes and several mode in operation in using some mechanisms. We have the same of IP operating principle whose administrator configure the SPD configure the SPD after the data will be transmitted to the SAD who contains the parameter of the active security association. So both database are consulted by IPsec on how handle the data. in the absence, in the absence, in the absence of SA, the creation and SA are requested to IKA and it send alert and then alert to the administrator. In the other case, the K consult. In the other case, the K is the IKA consult SPD via SA or negotiator or modifier the data. After the mobility in IPv6, we address the mobility in IPv6. The first IPv feature is that facilitates the mobility of a terminal is self-configuration. Is the same IPv6 mobility principle is presented. The mobility under IPv6 allows allows us to change the network and mobility agent without its correspondent not being affected by this change. The support of the mobility is possible thanks to correct automatic configuration mechanism. That after the system, we notice that the propriety of MIPv6 are that it is high over for data packets when the mobile not is roaming. After this part, we view the IoT needs support IPv6. Who I presented the contribution of IPv6 of the needs of the IoT is considerable that to IP6 and IPv6 protocol and self-configuration mechanism. This is the table how we compare IoT needs and IPv6. The IoT needs we have two aspects. We have two aspects: the mobility and the security. In the mobility, we view the NDP and the autograph and the IPv6 contribute the SCP. In the security, we have four aspects: the confidentiality, the authentication, the interoperability, and the scalability. And the IPv6 contribute ISP, EPS, EPSEC, MPv6, EKR. This is the report of IPv6 for IoT needs. After the part I draw the IoT needs support and the IoT needs and we present a comparison for two protocols such as IPv6 and MPPV6. This is a comparison of two protocols. This is a comparison of two protocols. The years has been made. We notice that the evolution of IMPv6 is proportional to the evolution of IP6 from 1 year to the next. This means that there is no mobility without security. And the last, it is the conclusion. Through this work, we cannot that the mobility and security of IPv6 has brought a clear improvement in IoT. Ensure connectivity and reliability is the foundation of IoT. Manage IoT interoperability by making in the introduced device and device. But self-configuration is implemented to facilitate the IPv6 connection of an IoT. Is the NDP finds a valid address for the IoT in a network via the DHCPV sector. In the perspective, IPsec and MPv6 protocol provide IoT operatively for IPv6 option. In the outlook or perspective, IoT in the outlook or perspective, I will draw IoT operating solution, IoT server security with IPv6 improvement of IoT servers using IPv6 and the last full IPv6 integration. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sonagi, for nice presentation. Can you elaborate the scalability which you are mentioning in the security?
Can you repeat your question, Doctor?
Can you elaborate the scalability?
Scalability is a scalability is a phenomenon a phenomenon who's a people who's a person who's a person develop develop some details to taking her device and so the scalability is a need who started in the security of IoT.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you hear me, Doctor?
Okay, I have no question. Okay.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Now, I would like to invite Alan John with his paper on mobile games for the general 3D and original Filipino board game going mobile. You may start your presentation now.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Am I audible? All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So good evening from the Philippines. It's 9 o'clock here. So I'm here to present our research entitled Mobile Game of the Generals, an original Filipino board game going mobile. So together with me is Professor Carlos Senabablit, Mr. Jerwin R. Makalawa, and Mr. Dominic C. Reyes. For my introduction, Game of the Generals was also known as Salpakan in Filipino, an original Filipino board game created by Ronnie Pasola in 1976. It is made out of cartolina paper cutouts marked with soldier ranks, applying the concept of mahjong. The game is commonly played by 3 people, 2 opposing sides, and the arbiter, who is referred to as the judge of the game. It is the judge tasked to judge the colliding pieces and remove the piece that has lower rank from the other. The game will begin by setting up each game pieces on the board depending on their strategy. Each piece can move 1 cell up, down, left, or right only. If pieces collides, if pieces collides, the higher rank of the higher piece will eliminate the lower rank. In case of the same rank, both pieces will be eliminated. Here are the pieces ranks and counts. There are 2 spies, the highest rank. There are 5 generals. There is 1 colonel, lieutenant colonel, and a major, 1 captain, 1 first lieutenant, and 1 second lieutenant, and a sergeant. And there are 6 privates. And of course, the flag. There are 3 ways to win the game. One is when 1 player catches the flag of the opposing player. Second is a player reach the farthest row on the opposing player. And third, one of the player forfeits. There will be a draw if both players agreed to. The objective of the study, with the big opportunity of using modern technology such as mobile, mobile development, and interconnectivity, the objective of the study is to create a mobile game of the Generals 3D that can be played by two players on their own mobile phone using hotspot and track its win-lose statistics with an automated arbiter. The methodology we used in this study, the process of methodology is called iterative model. It is a model of the system development lifecycle where the researchers develop a working version early in the process and make iterations throughout the development cycle. The researchers have gone through the initial planning and cycles through the requirements planning, analysis and design, development and testing until the last step, deployment. This model eliminates bugs and errors and experience improvements every cycle. The first step in the research process is initial planning, where the articles and related studies and journals from the internet and library are read and studied to acquire all the needed information that was needed in the development of the game, such as the history of the game rules, and as part of the research interviews with the board games enthusiasts and game of the generals players are conducted to have a cross-reference of the information. The data collected was stored and processed to develop the idea for the design and development of the game. For the analysis and design, after the data was created, analyzed, and processed, the needed assets for the game were designed, such as the 3D battlefield, board, and the game pieces. The assets were created using Blender application. The skins and materials of the assets were designed in Adobe Photoshop, and the assets were transferred into Unity 3D and the game engine used for the development of the game. For the development phase mainly focused on adding the system functionalities such as phone connectivity, countings of wins and losses, and the in-game characteristics of the pieces and the arbiter's perspective, and it has been programmed in C# programming language. For the testing was conducted using two Android smartphones. Functionalities of the game were listed on a test case form, which includes various steps on how the test for each function will be conducted. The results of the test are listed together with the test case ID, the number of times debugged, and the details of the errors. The cycle of these tests made sure that all of the functionalities of the game is running smoothly without bugs. For the deployment, upon the design, development, and testing cycles eliminating all the errors in the test cases, the game was deployed on several Android smartphones and was used by GOG enthusiasts, information technology people, and students of the Cavite State University ICICT campus. Description of the application. GOG is a mobile game that runs on an Android OS. It was based on a classical Filipino board game called Game of the Generals, played by two people in their mobile phones, connected via hotspot and an automated arbiter to judge the clashes of the pieces. The application was created using an Unity game engine, Blender for the assets, and Adobe Photoshop for the graphic design. The main menu shows different options. Start, the start, the how, and the profile. The how menu will show the instructions on how the game can be played, including the technicalities. The profile will show the win-lose statistics of the player, and the start will redirect the page to the lobby page. On the lobby page, it has two main buttons: the create lobby, which automatically creates a match when pressed, and join lobby, which is accompanied by a text box. Sorry. The purpose of the text box is to enter the opponent's IP address and allow the user to join an existing match. The game mechanics. Once the game mode has been settled, freely set up your piece's position. Press and hold the screen for 3 seconds to lock in your arrangement. Once both players are ready, the game will start. Note that the pieces rankings are located at the back of each piece. Here's an example of the screenshot of a player's perspective between blue player and the red player. So the player can only see their ranks and the pieces. They will not see the the opponent's pieces. The test result of the game was done for each function to ensure that all modules are error and bug free and of top quality. The functions to be tested are listed with test case ID. Upon testing the functionalities, the developers recorded the details if the game encounters an error and will debug after. It shows the table shows that the testing procedures done for the game. These procedures are done using 2 mobile phones connected via hotspot. The test includes major functionalities from compatibility, game navigation buttons, connectivity, and scoring. Upon testing, one of the major problems encountered was connectivity when the mobile phones are disconnected due to limited range of the hotspot. After disconnection, the game was halted and there was no score update since the game was not finished. Overall, the testing ensured that the game can be played, assuming that the 2 mobile phones are in reachable positions via hotspot. For the conclusion, the digital era is in commence and now engulfing manual process. Mobile phones are also getting powerful to the point that they can be used as a personal digital assistant and serve as a mini personal computer. Throughout the years, most board games are digitized, and creating a tangible and physical board and pieces are slowly getting off the line. With the development of this study, the board game industry can still grow and be utilized in mobile platforms and will not meet its end. With the use of development tools for designing and programming, every board game can survive and still be played and enjoyed by enthusiasts on the go. The game is recommended to be uploaded and connected online with an internet connection to reach more players and achieve its maximum utilizations. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Alan, for nicely organized presentation. No question from my side. Thank you.
Okay, I have one questions. You have developed a mobile application game. So is it in development stage or is it in already in live?
It is already live, but it is not uploaded in Play Store or in iOS store. But it can be downloaded through. It can be shared through email or through what do you call the item sharing in the mobile phones.
Okay, so what's your future plan? I mean, is it just research or you have planned to actually upload this game in Play Store or other app store?
The plan is to upload it on Play Store. The problem is budget.
Okay, best of luck, Ellen. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes, Saksham. Look forward to closing remarks. All presentations are done, I think so.
Yes. So I sincerely thank all the authors for their excellence present and contribution and in this session and all the participants for the part of this international conference. I hope this session was informative enough. We, on the behalf of the whole team, thank you for your support during this 8th version and previous 7th version of the conference. And we'll be happy to have you in the 9th version of the conference in 2024. All the presenters would be getting their digital certificates in 2 or 3 working days. And further, all the papers are already forwarded to the Springer and the publications will be live in 6 months. So kindly cooperate with the team of ICICT 2023. And I also thank our session chairs Dr. S.M. Mahmood, and Dr. Ritika Desai for chairing the session. A token of appreciation to the session chairs from the team of ICICT 2023 and Global Knowledge Research Foundation and partners. Thank you for your valuable presence.
Thank you, Shaksham. Thank you all the presenters. Thank you, Dr. Latika and Mahmood, to chairing the session. Now I request to all the presenters to keep camera on for the one quick snapshot of the same for the memory. I request you all, those who are comfortable, kindly turn on your camera. Yes. With the count of 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot to all of you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Mahmood, for the same.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thanks a lot.